Hey everyone, welcome back to Casey 3D Sparks. Today we are going to be continuing a little bit from last week's video where we made the walls attached to the dungeon tiles. So I thought it'd be really cool if we had some dungeon doors to add to that. I thought it'd be really cool if we had some double doors to add on to that. So if you want, I'll go ahead and put the link in the description below for last week's video, just in case you missed it. So be sure to watch that one so you can add on these doors to your dungeon scenery. To get started, I just started with the default cube, changed the dimensions to 2 inches, 1/4 of an inch for the Y, and 2 inches for the Z axis as well. And other than that, you pretty much want to make sure that your units are set to inches if you're going to use that. Of course, work with whatever you're most comfortable in. And I set my grid scale to 1/4 of an inch. So we can go ahead and tab into edit mode, and then we want to deselect everything, Control R, add a loop there, go into side view, Control R, and add a loop there. Deselect everything with A, and we want to grab this and these, and we can delete those vertices, and then we'll go over to our modifiers tab and add in mirror, and we want to make sure it's on the X and the Y axis and apply clipping. So that way we only have to model 1/4 of our door, so that way it's reflected on both sides for the handles and we don't really have to do much else. Awesome. Now that we have all of that, let's get our loops set up. So in the last video, you saw that the floor tile was about 1/4 of an inch tall, so we want to make sure that that is still the same. So do that. Actually, we don't want to do that because our door still needs to be 2 inches tall. So what we will do is grab this, hit E to extrude, and we're going to snap that down to there. So that is 1/4 of an inch, and our doors are still 2 inches tall. So in order to snap, I just hold Control, so that way it's perfectly 1/4 of an inch and it matches up great. Okay, so now that we have our extra little footer there, we can set up all of our loops. What we'll do is, I want the door to have a frame, obviously. So it's going to be, I'm going to do a stone one. So I think I want it to be maybe about that thick for the top. And I want it to be a little bit square, so about there. Doesn't have to be perfect because that part I am going to sculpt out. I'm just kind of getting the actual edge loop so I can start making the door first. So that looks good enough. And we want to make sure that we have the creases set up. So add 2 loops here and size along the x-axis. To about there. Add another one here, and we want to do these size along the Z axis, and 2 more. Perfect. So now all we need to do is grab these vertices. Go into side view, Z for wireframe view, and pull those back, maybe about there. So that we have the creases for the door. Perfect. Now, I want to go ahead and set up the framing for the door handle. So add 2 loops there. I definitely don't want it that tall. Add a loop here. Make it a little bit smaller, actually. Think about that size will be good. Go into side view, E to extrude. This will be like the back plate for the door handle. And then E to extrude again. Size that in. Size that a lot more along the x-axis. E to extrude and to about there. 3 edge loops there. That looks good. Now that we have that set up, once we're out of edit mode, we'll just go ahead and boolean a torus there, so that way we can have our circular door handle. And that'll be on both sides. Perfect. Now, all we need to do really is add in our lines for the pieces of wood. So Control R, I'm just gonna do 2 loops, sorry. And we wanna kind of do the same thing with what we did for the crease around the door frame. So let's go ahead, add this here. So now that we have our loops set up, we can go ahead and grab all of those vertices, go in a side view and pull them back. Not as dramatic as the door ones, of course, or the outer frame ones, just deep enough so that way it's a little bit obvious. Maybe not that deep. I think I want it a little less dramatic. I like that. That looks good. Now we'll go ahead, tab out of edit mode, and we will go ahead and duplicate that. We'll hide the first one. We can apply our mirror modifier. We are going to add in a torus, which will be our door handle. Go in a side view, rotate 90 degrees. Whoopsie. Rotate 90 degrees. And we can just size that way down. Now, obviously, I want it to be kind of thick, so that way I don't have any thing hanging off. It's going to be a little bit bigger than it probably should be, but that way it's just going to print a little bit easier. So bring that out. About there. I want it to connect to everything. I think that looks pretty good. Shift D, because we want that to go over here as well. Grab both of those, Shift D on both, and we can just pull them both back. Go ahead and apply the rotation and scale on that. And what we'll do, add modifier, Boolean, union. We're going to do 4 of those. So we need door handle 1, 3, and 2. Tab into edit mode to make sure that it connected properly, which it definitely did. Awesome. Now, when I say make sure it connected properly, basically what you're looking for is to make sure that there's no mesh, extra mesh inside. So everything actually did intersect perfectly. So it worked out great. So we don't have to worry about that. So I will go ahead and duplicate this again. So that way we can take this version and take it into sculpt mode and have fun with our door frame. For the door frame, I want it to be stone. So I want to have fun just etching out these, and I just want to do it freeform. Now I know in the last video the stone that I did was very clean lines like this wood is, so if you wanted to do it with the very clean lines, you can just follow the same tutorial as the castle walls. Just, you know, basically take these, or exactly like what I did with these planks of wood, just make your line loops and just size them in and you're good to go. But I want to go ahead and just have a little bit of fun with sculpt mode real quick. So you guys can either follow along, which I'm just going to be using the sculpt draw one. And I want to make sure that this box is checked so it'll add in the topology, because I definitely don't have enough geometry in here to make a difference. So I'm going to check that box. And I'm going to have my symmetry lock on for the X and the Y, so that way it's on this side and again this side. So I only have to model this little section here, and that should be all I really need. I'll just, you know, size in and out with the actual scroll wheel and have fun. So I am going to speed through this part, and I'll see you guys in a second. Perfect. Okay, nice and simple. I'm gonna leave the side smooth and the top smooth so that way if I decide to stack on pieces later on, it has, you know, basically a flat enough surface to do that. So pretty simple tutorial today. Not sure if I'll be able to print these out. If you guys have any questions or you have any critiques or just helpful hints, I'd really appreciate any requests as well. You can go ahead and put those in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I really appreciate any feedback, and I will see you guys next week.